Hello everyone, this is Chris Imazu from Nizona Corporation. We have been doing dietary supplements from Japan since 2011. Today I want to speak to you about demystifying some things that we hear a lot about: glutathione. Glutathione is a very popular dietary supplement ingredient that is utilized for a lot of supplement foods. And I have a little cheat sheet over here, so please allow me to look at the left side sometimes. Sorry for that, but I'm gonna perhaps say some words that are a little technical, but I'm gonna try to keep things as simple as possible. Glutathione is basically a tripeptide. It's a tripeptide made of three amino acids: glutamic acid, cysteine, and glycine. The point that I want to make primarily here is that glutathione can have two sources. One is a natural source, and the other is a synthetic source. At Nizona Corporation, we focus on natural ingredients and we do not use synthetic sources. Glutathione can have two origins, like I mentioned before, and the one that we utilize comes from torula extract. Torula extract is a naturally occurring form of glutathione, and this has a great advantage that it has very low regulatory barriers because you can utilize it as a yeast extract. As opposed to the reduced glutathione that uses a chemical process to extract glutathione in a pure form through a process of fermentation, this ingredient is very heavily regulated and therefore has more regulatory barriers. So if you want to keep regulation simple, I recommend you to focus on naturally occurring glutathione. On the other hand, natural occurring glutathione is more safe from a point of view of overconsumption for the benefit of the end consumer. It is obviously easier to sell a product that is naturally occurrent than synthesized. On the other hand, from a regulatory point of view, because the glutathione that we utilize is naturally occurrent and can be labeled as yeast extract, there are very simple or more simple, let's say, ways to label it in products in countries that perhaps have more regulatory requirements. And that applies obviously in Europe, for example, or in the United States. In the United States, naturally occurring glutathione from torula extract that we utilize at Nizona Corporation has been classified as a GRAS ingredient, or in other words, acknowledged by the FDA as a safe ingredient for human consumption. The same happens in Europe. As a matter of fact, when we use naturally occurring glutathione, what we're using is torula extract, with the scientific name being Candida utilis. Sorry for the mispronunciation, perhaps. Actually, Germany started using this ingredient more than 100 years ago as a food source, or better still, as a protein source. Since then, obviously, the Food Drug Administration of the United States and the European Food Safety Authority, the EFSA, have recognized naturally occurring glutathione, or better still, torula yeast extract, as a safe ingredient. That again is very important when it comes to importing the product into a country like the United States, for example, or a region like Europe. Just to close, sometimes we hear customers mentioning that a certain amount of glutathione is required for the ingredient to be efficient. Well, there are many scientific studies that indicate different dosages of glutathione to achieve efficacy in different areas. For example, in particularly, people mostly look at glutathione for liver health, skin glowing, and beauty and antioxidant functions. Here in Japan, there are scientific studies developed by the scientific community, including a leading university in Kyoto, that indicate that 48 milligrams of glutathione per day is enough to achieve desired results. This was tested in a double placebo clinical trial with Japanese subjects. In other words, depending on the type of efficacy that you're looking at, anywhere from 50 milligrams of glutathione per day could be an efficient amount for developing a great product. Finally, when it comes to the glutathione content in capsules, I have another video where I explain the different sizes of capsules that we utilize and how many active ingredients can fit in a capsule. When it comes to Western markets, usually we hear that customers prefer a larger size of capsule. we offer a size of capsule that you can see in the video that I'm going to link to this one, that has a 450 milligrams total weight. Inside of that capsule, we can put up to 400 milligrams of active ingredients. That means that when we include, let's say, a naturally occurring glutathione in one capsule, we can have as much pure glutathione concentration of 80 milligrams in one capsule. Why is that? Because naturally occurring glutathione contains 20% concentration of pure glutathione per unit, or let's say per dosage, right? So we avoid reduced glutathione, which is close to 100% concentration of glutathione, because it's synthetic and is regulated as a therapeutical drug, or it has many regulatory restrictions. On the other hand, if we use naturally occurring glutathione from torula yeast extract, because it's a natural ingredient, it includes 20% of glutathione concentration. However, by putting 400 milligrams of this material in one capsule that is available very commonly here in Japan, we can have up to 80 milligrams of glutathione in one capsule. That means that you can develop a product that you can recommend 1 or 2 or even 3 capsules per day, depending on the dosage, or depending on the type of customer, or depending on the type of a function that you want to achieve. And it's more than enough, because remember, guys, I mentioned that there are many scientific studies here in Japan that indicate that 48 milligrams of glutathione per day can achieve desirable effects. So the conclusion here is, go for the naturally occurring glutathione. Let's stay away from synthetic forms of glutathione that have a lot of regulatory restrictions and can have certain risks of overconsumption by the end consumer. So look us up on Nizona Corporation for more information about this ingredient and more information about the scientific studies that I mentioned in this short video. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from you.